You were never supposed to make her obsessed by what you say. That idea alone has probably been controlling your behavior for years without you realizing it. Every pause, every message, every interaction filtered through the same question. What do I say next so she feels something? And that's where most men quietly lose. Because obsession was never designed to be triggered by sentences. It doesn't live in your mouth. It lives in her mind, long after you're gone. Most men operate like performers. They think attraction is built in the moment, face to face, word by word. They believe if they just say the right thing, at the right time, in the right tone, her emotions will flip like a switch. So they rehearse, they try harder, and ironically, the more they try to manufacture obsession, the further they push it away. Because the female brain doesn't fall into obsession during the interaction. It starts after. Here's the part nobody explains. When you leave, when the conversation ends, when silence appears, her mind goes to work. That's where the real decision-making happens. That's where attraction either fades or deepens. She replays moments. She reinterprets tone. She asks herself questions she didn't plan to ask. Why did that feel different? Why didn't he react like the others? Why am I still thinking about this? That internal dialogue is the beginning of obsession, and it has nothing to do with a clever line. Most men never see this because they're focused on control. Control the outcome, control her reaction, control how she feels. But obsession isn't created by control. It's created by impact, by leaving something unresolved in her emotional system. A subtle tension between how she felt with you and how ordinary everything feels without you. This is where the lie collapses. Obsession is not tactical. It's neurological. It's not about persuasion. It's about association. Her brain doesn't tag you as the guy who said the right thing. It tags you as the guy who made me feel something different. And once that association is formed, her mind starts looping back to you automatically. That loop is quiet, invisible, dangerous in the best way. And most men never even realize it exists. They're too busy talking, explaining, proving. But the men who understand this stop trying to create obsession in the moment. They start focusing on what her mind will do after the moment ends. So the real question isn't what you should say next. The real question is this: what exactly builds that loop? Her brain doesn't remember your face. It remembers how she felt. That's the part most men miss, because they assume attraction works like a checklist. Look, status, money, confidence. But inside her mind, those things fade faster than you think. What stays is the emotional imprint you leave behind. The way her nervous system shifted when you were near. The subtle difference between how she feels in normal life and how she feels around you. Think about it from her side. She meets men all the time. Most of them blend together. Similar energy, similar jokes, similar effort. When she's with them, she's alert, guarded, slightly tense. But then there's you, and something changes. She feels calmer without knowing why. More present. A little lighter. Her shoulders drop. Her voice softens. She's not performing. She's not defending. She's just there. And her brain quietly notes that difference. Later, when she's alone, that feeling comes back before your image does. She's not replaying your words. She's replaying the state she slipped into when she was with you. I felt relaxed. I felt more like myself. I didn't feel like I had to try so hard. That's the emotional seed. And once it's planted, it starts growing on its own. Here's the shift most men never see. Obsession doesn't start with wanting you. It starts with wanting to feel that way again. She doesn't think, I need him. She thinks, I miss how I felt. That's a much deeper pull, because now you're no longer competing with other men. You're being compared to normal life. And normal life suddenly feels a little dull without you. This is also why surface attraction is weak. Other men might look better, talk louder, impress harder. But they don't change how she experiences herself. They feel familiar, predictable, replaceable. You feel different, and difference is what the brain protects. The turning point happens when her mind connects the dots. I like who I am when I'm with him. That thought carries warmth, safety, curiosity, and a quiet hope she doesn't fully admit yet. Because once she likes the version of herself that appears around you, distance starts to matter. But here's the truth most men get wrong. Feeling good alone doesn't create obsession. It creates comfort. And comfort by itself isn't enough to hold her mind, because something else has to happen next. Certainty kills obsession faster than rejection ever could. Rejection hurts in the moment, but certainty quietly shuts the door in her mind. When everything is clear, defined, and predictable, there's nothing left for her brain to explore. And the brain, especially when it comes to attraction, craves motion. It craves unanswered questions. That's why clarity feels safe. But safety alone doesn't create desire. Most men rush towards certainty because it soothes their anxiety. They want to know where they stand. They want to lock things in. They want to eliminate doubt as quickly as possible. So they explain themselves. They reassure. They make their availability obvious. And the moment they do, the mental friction disappears. Her mind stops leaning forward. The loop never starts. Uncertainty isn't confusion. It's not disappearing. It's not manipulation. It's the natural result of a man who is emotionally grounded and not trying to be owned too early. She knows you like her, but she doesn't feel she fully has you. She doesn't know how much of you belongs to her versus your life, your purpose, your standards, and that tiny gap becomes mental fuel. This is where the internal dialogue begins. Not loud, dramatic thoughts, quiet ones. Did he like that? Why didn't he react the way I expected? What was he thinking when he said that and then went quiet? These questions aren't stressful. They're engaging. Her mind starts replaying moments, searching for meaning, and the more her mind works, the more emotionally invested she becomes without realizing it. The turning point happens when uncertainty shifts from discomfort to curiosity. She's not worried about losing you yet. She's intrigued. You're not predictable enough to dismiss, but not distant enough to forget. That balance keeps you active in her thoughts. This is also why her friends don't need to be involved. The loop doesn't require outside influence. It runs internally. She doesn't announce it. She feels it. A quiet pull back to you that doesn't make logical sense yet. And this is the counterintuitive truth. Obsession doesn't grow when she feels secure. It grows when her mind is slightly unsettled, gently circling you, trying to understand where you fit in her emotional world. But here's the limit. Uncertainty by itself doesn't create obsession. Left alone, it fades, because something else must anchor it. Scarcity isn't ignoring her, it's being irreplaceable. Most men confuse the two. They think leaving her waiting or disappearing for a day creates desire. It doesn't. True scarcity isn't a game. It's a natural consequence of living a life that doesn't orbit around her reactions. It's the quiet strength of a man who has his own rhythm, his own purpose, and isn't easily replicated. Think about her mind for a moment. She sees other men trying too hard, performing, bending to be liked, loud, anxious, available at every notice. She notices the difference immediately. You don't beg, you don't justify, you don't explain yourself. You exist as a stable presence in a world of chaos, and that stability becomes magnetic. It's not what you do that creates weight, it's who you are when you do nothing at all. Silence doesn't feel like absence, it feels like meaning. She senses that your attention is finite, your time valuable, your energy grounded. And when she realizes she can't easily replace you, a quiet respect emerges. If I lose him, I lose something real. That thought carries gravity, not because you manipulated it, but because your life, your frame, and your consistency have communicated it naturally. Comparison men only reinforce your position. Loud, needy, reactive. They show her what she doesn't want. You show her what she instinctively craves: calm authority, emotional control, and standards that cannot be bent for temporary approval. Your scarcity becomes identity-based, not tactic-based. It's embedded in your presence, not scripted in your words. The pace here is slow. Each moment matters. Every interaction carries weight. She doesn't need to see a performance. She feels the difference organically. That contrast, more than anything else, anchors her mind to you. And yet, the same action, a text sent hours later, a polite refusal, a delayed response can mean worlds apart, depending on the frame you've built. Presence gives meaning. Scarcity without context is empty. So the real question becomes, why do the same actions mean different things in her mind? Women don't react to actions, they react to meaning. A text left unread for 3 hours isn't simply a delay. For one man, it signals neglect. For another, it signals purpose.com, an unshakable presence. Her brain assigns significance based on the frame you've built long before that action occurs. And that frame is invisible, yet infinitely more powerful than any clever move or rehearsed line. Think of it this way. Every man performs in front of her, consciously or not. The weak man bends, reacts, pleads, and his every gesture is loud, desperate, and predictable. The grounded man moves differently. He doesn't need to prove, he doesn't need to chase. Even the smallest action, a slow smile, a brief pause, a calm glance carries weight because it is interpreted through the lens of his presence. Meaning is layered over behavior like sunlight over glass, subtle but unmistakable. Her thoughts fill in the gaps. Why did he pause? Why didn't he answer instantly? Why does he seem unaffected? That internal commentary isn't random. Her mind is translating your composure, your consistency, your boundaries into a signal she can feel but can't manufacture herself. And when that signal is strong, ordinary moments become anchors of fascination. That delayed reply, that gentle tease, that calm refusal, all of it compounds into a magnetic pull. The turning point is realizing the filter matters more than the action. Your frame colors every interaction. It determines whether a simple glance is forgotten or revered, whether a small jest is ignored or dissected, whether your presence is fleeting or imprinted. The stronger the frame, the heavier the signals become. She doesn't need loud proclamations. She needs you to exist as a man whose standards, calm, and stability silently communicate value. The contrast between weak men and grounded men cannot be overstated. One is disposable, the other irreplaceable. Every subtlety of behavior, every controlled response, every small gesture accumulates meaning that her brain can't resist analyzing. That is the invisible architecture of obsession. So the next question naturally arises. What exactly is this frame? Frame is gravity. Everything else is decoration. Words are fleeting. Actions are temporary. But the energy you carry, the standards you hold, the calm presence you project, that is what your environment orbits around. When a man embodies his frame fully, everything he does lands differently. A simple "I don't like this" carries weight. A quiet refusal resonates. She notices, not because you shouted or performed, but because your presence has already set the baseline. Imagine walking into a room where everyone is loud, reactive, and chaotic. And there you are, steady, grounded, moving with intention but without need. The world seems to shift around you. People lean in, conversations slow, attention settles. And for her, this isn't about theatrics. It's about safety. It's about being allowed to drop the armor she wears in the rest of her life. She doesn't have to lead. She doesn't have to manipulate. She can simply feel. That feeling becomes addictive without her even realizing it. The masculine frame connects everything you've learned before. The emotional siege she experienced, the uncertainty that engaged her mind, the scarcity that gave you weight, they all rely on frame to be interpreted correctly. Without it, small actions fall flat. With it, even a brief glance becomes meaningful. Every pause loaded with curiosity. Every choice a subtle signal of unshakable value. Boundaries are part of this frame. A calm, firm line like, "That's not acceptable," or "I'll handle this my way," doesn't create conflict. It creates respect. It teaches her what you accept, what you won't, and that your life isn't dictated by her reactions. Your stability becomes magnetic. Her guard drops because she feels safe, not because she has to chase. She's free to be soft, playful, and more herself. And that freedom builds obsession faster than any trick could. Crowd reactions, social context, even subtle comparisons with other men reinforce your position. You don't perform, you exist, and that existence alone creates gravity. Every interaction she has with you now carries weight she can't ignore. Now, let's bring this into the real world. How you act, speak, and move in everyday moments will determine whether her mind continues to loop back to you, whether attraction deepens, and whether the obsession you've planted takes root and grows. Her brain saves the vibe, not the sentence. That's the secret almost no one tells you. When you approach a woman, she isn't cataloging your words like items on a shopping list. She's feeling the energy you bring, the calm confidence you radiate, the subtle rhythm of your presence. That energy becomes the reference point. Her mind returns too long after the encounter ends. You can say the simplest thing, "Hey, quick question, that book you're reading, is it actually good or just hype?" And it barely matters what words come next. What matters is how you say it, the stillness behind it, the curiosity without need. Most men operate on the opposite principle. They perform, they try, they chase approval. You've already seen what that produces. Predictable, forgettable, and easily replaced interactions. The top 1% separate themselves by zero-need energy. They aren't desperate. They aren't performing to impress. They're simply curious, calm, and fully present. That subtle distinction shifts the entire dynamic. You're no longer competing with other men through words. You're differentiating yourself through presence. As you engage, small details matter. Your eyes hold steady without staring. Your voice is calm, slightly playful, measured. You pause naturally, allowing silence to exist without panic. If she responds dryly, you don't flinch. If she laughs or teases, you match it without losing center. The goal is not to impress. The goal is to plant the emotional seed that she experienced a new version of herself. Relaxed, playful, safe in your presence. She notices the difference, even if she can't articulate why. Later, when she's alone, that seed grows. She replays the energy, the vibe, the feeling, more than your words. Questions rise unbidden. Why is he so calm? Why doesn't he need me to like him? Her mind loops back to you, evaluating, feeling, replaying. That quiet curiosity is the birth of obsession, seeded not by lines, tricks, or charm, but by the energy you embodied in those first moments. Every environment, every crowd, every interaction subtly reinforces this. Anonymous women, bystanders, social context, they all highlight your presence without you needing to act. This is where performance ends and presence begins. The impact doesn't require force, it requires grounding. If you want to see how to build this systematically and create the kind of mental loop that leaves her thinking about you long after you leave, the full system is detailed in the link below.